All right, here we go. The news and you. What's in the news, how it can affect you, and how you can prepare. Hubs and infrastructure. Well, it's very good to see talk about building hubs and infrastructure, not just from city to city. We do need more high speed or some high speed rail. We need all kinds of new infrastructure, but this one was specifically, this article is about up north, how three, now they're not military bases, but military hubs are being announced. Things up north that we need to really work on outside of the actual military bases are roads. We need all season permanent roads to connect communities. We need the runways built and expanded. We need ports, deep water ports. We need refueling stations, some that can work even when it gets cold out. We need storage facilities, and we need power, water, and other essentials. Driving infrastructure in the north will increase the population, will help with our sovereignty, and enable us to expand. Exercises and troops. More exercises up north. Now, this is great. One finding from the exercise that was just recently held, or might even be still ongoing, was it took 3 days to get parts for a helicopter. Good lesson learned. Now, that's only if action is taken. If they just jot it down, it's just a lesson noted, and they won't learn from it. And that links to slide one, having those hubs. If you had hubs that were closer, you could have spare parts closer. So the exercise is great for training, great for interoperability between forces, great for having a presence there. Plant the flag, stake your claim. Military support growing globally. So not just more talk of actual investments and money hopefully being spent and not just planned for somewhere down the road in Canada, but the UK support was rising for the military. Europe is stepping up. 800 billion for Europe's defense, going to more of a wartime footing, being able to look after and defend themselves. Canada's making some moves finally, at least inking a deal to have River-class destroyers. And with that comes not only the destroyers, but also a bit of a pledge. Now, it's not too much. I think it's 0.05% of the contract, which is probably in excess of 20 billion, to put towards increasing capacity. And that's great. If we have better shipyards, better capacity to build ships, that's what we need. Infrastructure. So again, there we go, better shipyards. So we want to have enough shipyards and advanced enough shipyards. We want to have other armament capabilities, ammunition, tanks, other equipment that we're going to need. We need better ports. So my favorite two words together, more better. So there was an article on using the port of Churchill for fertilizer and how it's a shorter path to opening up some markets. And you have another port, more options. Options are good. Fiber and internet. Good to get away from Starlink. So they're tearing up the contracts with Starlink. Great. Let's have some Canadian providers and let's get more fiber and more internet. We need high-speed rail, Calgary to Edmonton. We need refineries. We need mines. We need all of these production capabilities. Sabotage versus protest. This article was about groups vowing to target tools, property, and machinery. So now going from protest, which a lot of activist groups are saying is not as effective, to actually causing damage as their way of protest. Now, that's not a protest. That's terrorism. That's domestic terrorism. You're using fear and coercion to try and force your point. It's not, I don't think that's activism anymore. So for those that have critical infrastructure, take note, tighten your security. What are your escalations? What are your monitoring? What are your physical security measures that you're putting in place? You see it happening, be ready for it. Another article, 24 emergency preparedness items. They talked about a lot of things. They talked about life straws, crank radios, first aid kits, water filters, having some food, having some water, having some solar generators, things like that. The what is not necessarily as important as the why. and just talking about it, raising awareness, and going into, well, why do you want to be prepared? What are your objectives? What are you trying to accomplish? Everyone has to start thinking that way. We have to be independent. We have to rely on ourselves first. So very good that we're starting to see articles like this popping up. Push to boost strategic oil reserves. So this is in the States, and it's a good idea to replenish this. It's getting very low. And again, what we want to do on our own, at our own scale, whether it's individual or family or community, establish your own strategic reserves. Now, in this case, if we're talking oil, great. So where do we start? Well, do you have a vehicle? Okay, the easiest way is keep your tank full. Don't let it get below 3/4 ever. That's the most basic strategic reserve for your vehicle. Next, what can you do? What's a step up from there? Well, you can get a couple of empty fuel cans. Even if they're empty, have them ready so that if you have to quickly go out, and if you happen to get into line and you happen to get fuel when there's a big crisis going on, at least you can fill up an extra can. Next step up, fill the can up. So you have an extra 20 liters or whatever your can size is. That's your new strategic gasoline reserve. Maybe get a couple cans. Enough. Do you have a bug out location? Do you have a friend place, a family member that you're going to try and get to in the event of an emergency? Then if you've got a couple of cans of fuel, maybe you'll have enough to get there without having to join the chaos at fuel stations. Do you have space for a larger tank? Do you know where the community fuel sources are? Maybe if you're, in a smaller area. What are your alternatives? Well, do you have multi-fuel capabilities? Do you have different fuels? Gas, diesel, propane, electricity. Look at all those different options. I saw this one. I like this one. This is my pride flag. Pride nationwide. And that's all across Canada. We have to show that pride. We have to stand up for ourselves. We have to take some independence. And again, cascade it, domino it back to yourself. If we're saying, okay, we have to be able to stand up as a country and be independent, not rely on the states to protect us. Now let's take that the next step down. What about a province? Can the province defend itself? Does the province have its own resources, its own income, its own emergency funds, its own response capabilities, its own food storage, its own fuel stockpiles? Break it down further. What about the city? What about your community? What about your family? What about you? Take it all the way backwards and make sure you have that resilience. That's it. That's all. Thanks for watching. Hope you like, share, and subscribe.